Our remembered yesterday, our remembered yesterday and before is all we know, and it is for showing if you are able and willing. Someone forced Hillary Rodham and Clinton to rally women. Vince Foster through Gaddafi and Benghazi. I watch a contrived diatribe how a glass ceiling was being cracked and a flood of good would arrive in the form of a finally free woman. So I watched more votes cast for Hillary than Donald Trump. People believed in her. They cast a vote for Hillary. But then Trump won through the University Electoral College. And oh no, not yet. It is so easy to forget as we strive to get new news to share with those not in despair over the lies of omission, acts of sinful commission of human experiments on humans for a recent history of what kind of man we put in charge. Possibly you believe some things you have heard about the wonder working power in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, of whom the Bible speaks. Does Christ believe in you? It is a three-step process, so to speak. You're one called, two chosen, three faithful. What are the goals of people who love this world? What makes the narrow road special? Joy, hope, and love. Come on, do you have the wonderful love of our blessed Redeemer way down in the depths of your heart? Welcome, everybody, to Mudflood was Armageddon. The Mudflood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Thank you for your patience. I'm welcoming the famous Randy from Wisconsin. That's RJ to us. How you doing, man?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm fine here. Stepping into month number 10.
Month number 12, you're only going back to that make believe calendar. December Decalogue 12 is 10. I got to show a disclaimer and then we got to just keep rolling, man. We got this
Yes,
disclaimer here because, we don't want everything blocked.
yeah, as you were
Sergio's
reading,
Sergio
I was
saved me
just
from getting a strike. He called me the other day when they said, "Oh, you shared too much of a video," and then YouTube let me keep going, man. It was all good because of this fair use disclaimer. We don't know anything about medicine, making money. You have to go see your doctor, but we want you to try. I kind of want you to listen to me, not those knuckleheads that are doing that other lies.
yeah, know a lot more about how to lose it than to make it, but whatever.
So here's some screenshots. Look, this is one called Gargoyles and Grotesques. I like to show what I studied before, image from like yesterday to the
That's it.
day.
1888. Is that
So
the?
yeah, isn't that kind of your favorite year?
It's quite
Mysterious year. It's not your favorite. It's weird. It's just everywhere, and I just like the script of that.
yeah. What font is it uh,
Going the wrong way.
called?
Uh,
What?
Times old Roman.
So
Here's
what's
some
in
of the.
its mouth? Just a rolled tongue? Is that?
It's a
Is that
rolled tongue because this is a gargoyle. It shoots the water out. A grotesque is just
oh
a.
yeah. Oh, that's a spout. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
double.
spout. A grotesque is just one of those funny animals for no reason.
Okay.
Okay. Problems in chronology, even in Shakespeare. It's not only that people have problems with the chronology from Ferminco and Heelbig and all of the other people going like, hey, this is crazy. Well, the people that aren't called to God, they spend their lives like Shelley, May, Maycock, that, going to get to the bottom of this proving. They're called to prove that we don't know nothing about the dating of Shakespeare. E.K. Chambers, they just are all over it. Explicitly admits that his chronological scenario is tailored to fit the known biological circumstances of a playwright that died in 1616. He's just saying, man, everything just seems like there is no Shakespeare, but if there was, then he definitely wrote all these things and he died this year, although there's not a lot of proof for him. They got a lot of here's the big deal. I use this as a thumbnail. That's the 500 miles of canals in the Hohokam. That's where Phoenix, Arizona is today. They lived in a desert for long time, centuries. No problems, man. They had all the water and irrigation they needed, but then the white men found them. So it's the equivalent of that one city. Their canals ran from Phoenix to San Diego. They were all over this area. The Hohokams, like not. And this, does that look familiar? This is the canals that were all over the desert, where they just leveled the desert with the same accuracy of the aqueducts of Rome, just a foot or two per mile on those 500 miles. So the water was just, hey, what are we going to do today? Worry about water? Nope. No, we're not. A Hohokam heart, a representative of a four-chambered heart with the swastika that works for your blood and your liver to cleanse the air and the blood that you breathe. I was intrigued by the three circles.
Right. I focused in on that also.
Right, because it's the fourth ventricle, the left atrium, and I'll show you. It's kind of just something that we shouldn't know about. It's like it is a chamber. They can see it on a CAT scan, and this isn't an accident. This little extension here. Por favor, please remember the little extension on the swastika, Hohokam. Zach Macanudo sent me a thing, man, and this guy was visiting. They're at this lock, going up and down that Erie Canal on the side of a mountain,
Number 28?
Well, it's one of the number 28s. I always thought, yeah, it's number, yeah. And these guys were so cool, man. Look at, and here it goes up and then goes back down. And he's just visiting one of the local museums, and they are so happy. And it turns out that this river, the Cuyahoga, kind of fun just to say that word. It's like the Fox River where you live. That's always confusing me. I mean, how many times do I ask you about? Tell me about that stupid river again. It's just like that one. It flows uphill, and the Cuyahoga.
It don't flow uphill.
Let me finish, man. This says its own like propulsion, the Cuyahoga. It's going the wrong way then anyway. And something's making it appear to go uphill.
Yeah.
That's weird, huh?
Well, water doesn't flow uphill. I'm just saying that.
It can be forced uphill, like with the vortex. That's what they did in that.
Well, yeah, it can create momentum for
this is the town they found when they cleared out the Erie Canal, and this is where I got that. A talk with God. This was what Zach Macanudo sent me. All waters lead to truth. Old world canals and self-propelled waters from below. Interesting, huh? She's
Oh, yeah.
interesting. I just think this Portage Summit, because you see, this is lock number 1, and then on the other side, that's lock number 1 too. Oh, there's double lock 1. There's another view of that whole town that was set up there in the late 1700s, early 1800s. You know, like, hey, it's the Erie Canal. I'm gonna, hey, look, western Wisconsin got hit with factory enhanced snow. There was this one factory working there, and it was just causing a lot of steam to go up. So I mean, it was like 10 miles away, there was nothing. I have this pulled up because I want people to see that there's silver in your body. There's also gold in your body, uncoated nanoparticles, but you can get gold and silver. Actually, everything that's in the dirt is in your body. And yeah, I do believe that at one point in history, they were melting people in like those Bethlehem steel things just to get their gold. Like, show me your metal. They were so desperate, they didn't care who they killed to get it. Let's see what we got here. Nickel, like the nickel in your pocket, is the top confirmed contact allergen worldwide. So it's making people sick using nickel. There are some metals that you just don't, unless they're mixed with something, you don't want them. I mean, that radiation will kill you. Some stones will kill you. They claim that's a meteorite, but it's nickel. It's made of nickel. They think nickel's everywhere in the world, giving everybody allergies. That's nickel. U.S. volunteers found that 9% had been unknowingly sensitized to nickel. That was in 1979. As of 2008, that number tripled. Most importantly, nickel allergy among children is increasing. Huh. Nickel. What's crazy stuff? So anyway, I told this guy you would explain this to him. I sent him a note. So go ahead, RJ. It's hard to watch us sometimes because we talk about so many things and stuff, but what do you mean about communion?
Well, yeah, the communion that's described in the Bible.
Yeah, usually when we talk about communion, we go, we don't even do communion anymore.
Well, that's the a unity of mindset that was prescribed to do, until the Lord returned, declaring what what Emmanuel had accomplished in real time here in earth.
He took bread and broke it.
And that's Maundy, Thursday, the institution of the Last Supper.
Do this until I return.
Yeah, you have the two elements, physical elements: wine, bread, and what they represent in the sacrament. And then confessing, that.
And even in the New Testament, we see that, that got out of control. They got into love feast. What are you bringing things? You're getting drunk? What? And eventually, I don't know if it's going to get into it today or tomorrow, but I'm going to do something about how, the first pope and some of these things in the catacombs and things where they're addressing the pope. We can find in scriptures a lot of hints, especially, I think, in the second epistle of John, the letter to where John, one of the last things are like, he's writing to a guy talking about somebody who won't listen to Paul anymore. And he's saying, and they're casting them out. They're saying, we don't need to listen to them. That's the big deal. When the Judaizers win, and it does show that there was a great falling away. All of Asia departed Paul. That's the added 1,000 years. That's what we're going into. And let's
And the
just keep.
desire to speak face to face with, if there's
Yes.
an issue, not just start gossiping or whatever. And because, yeah, as far as putting any sense of what would that be, closure, to whatever the issue is.
Well, and this issue that when we talk about communion, it's certainly not transubstantiation, and it was something for them
No,
to consider. Right now, we have a lot to consider, and we'll get to it with some of the Bible verses. Like, is there and ever going to be an increase of knowledge where people are going to wise up, and only the wise will understand?
well, I think, and
So,
that's another faith, uh, you know, uh, as far as determining, even though the quotation, take and receive, this is my body, taken,
yeah,
this
still
is
plenty to
my
contemplate.
blood. Uh, it implies, what he is being quoted as saying, certainly, and then you have the faith element, and then even today to say, as far as a sacrament, it's something that was instituted, by God or Emmanuel. Uh, Baptism was something that John the Baptist technically was doing before Jesus, but that was also part of the commission. Uh, go out and preach the gospel and do the baptizing. He wasn't saying, and the communion, but it was understood that if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, uh, those would be something that the
Ex-
believers would be involved in doing.
Expected, yeah. As we
Yeah.
read the Bible as the book written to them, we see what they were told to do.
But as far as the limitation, not that it's a limitation, to be involved, if you're doing it as a act of remembrance, knowing that, yeah, he's already returned, and you only, that was the thing, do it until he returns. To continue doing it, that should be something that's pre-announced to those that are going to be participants in the ceremony of communion. In my mind, uh, that that I'm aware of, it isn't like, well, we don't need to do this any longer, but that isn't part of the normal practice today that I'm aware of.
I don't think we're missing anything by skipping it ourselves. At my
But
first
but
defense,
then
no one
baptism,
came to stand by me.
baptism is something that's probably uh, more important. Uh, you know, uh, even that, the thief on the cross, unlikely was, that he was baptized, but he was seeing paradise.
Right. There are extenuating circumstances. I can't see, is Paul saying Alexander, maybe in some place else, as far as the false prophet being Alexander, not sure on that one, but we got a lot to cover, so let's keep going. People file that away, what you just heard. All right, so these guys were just, I showed John 6:4. Hebrew people Judaizers, these people, these guys, that like to,
It seemed a bit forced to me.
It's all about making it Jewish, and this is all about 6:4. John chapter 6, verse 4. A whole show about should it be in the Bible? Now, the Passover, the Feast of the Jews, was at hand. It's kind of like just a timestamp in the thing here, but oh my goodness, they're doing a whole show about it, and so many different manuscripts, and they studied it for 20 years, and they finally changed their mind, and all to make people
asking today. They're obviously maybe asking on different things, because we don't have the manuscripts he had. We can only deduce what they were. Augustine mentions the obelisk and asterisk. Augustine is in the time of Jerome in the 5th century. He says he's
right. So what do we even know about the 5th century? All we know are these things are a fake. And this is somebody else I just stumbled on today. I don't believe this is a computer. I think it's just some guy that, he starts out just laying out. Well, I'm going to play a couple of different sections of it.
Crystal in the Rupees Niagara magnetic volcano is also depicted here. Furthermore, this mountain seems to be placed in an area inhabited by magical creatures. These two-legged cryptids remind me of Alice in Wonderland. The finale of the movie, The Fifth Element, symbolically shows the alchemical creation of this plasma by mixing the 4 elements that lead to the cyclic plasma event at the North Pole.
Okay, what is it? What?
Yeah, as far as reminding him of Alice in Wonderland, the Emerald City reminds me of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, they're putting it all out there with the emerald tablets, the yellow brick road, the Yahoo Yehi, and I guess we got to figure it out for them, because this is not, they just take it down the, what was that?
So there's in this
Truth Unveiled. Yeah,
it's picture what there's segregate women on one side, men on the other. Is that
chapter 20?
That's the way it should be.
Revelation.
And so the name of this channel is, Revelation chapter 20. We know what they're talking about, RJ. This isn't new to us, but this is a new channel. It has less than 500 subscribers, but it's going to take off because it goes down the route of, oh my goodness, look at the Mercator map on the hollow earth globe of isn't this interesting? It's a black mountain in the middle. Oh, it's the same crap, but we need to hear it.
20. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded.
How many times have we read that? And first times, with 100 subscribers going we think it's over. So it's a new channel, and of course he's got to get into his explanation of, for years and years, people have believed this type of eschatology and that type of eschatology, things that, Doug Baldwin was laying out, or Doug Bartles was laying out 10 years ago, 8 years ago. We've got a new eschatology, and they can either stay on the narrow road with Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age past, Mudflood was Armageddon, or you're going to go down the way to...
Yeah, and Jason Jack just did something, but within the last couple weeks, I think.
Exactly. There's going to be a narrow road. The truth is going to come out, and only the wise will understand. Let's hear this.
Kingdom, thus separating the second coming from the final judgment. According to this view, the reign of Christ will be physical on earth. Postmillennialism sees the second coming of Christ as taking place after the millennium, and at the same time as the final judgment. According to this view, the reign of Christ during the millennium will be spiritual in and through the church. Amillennialism rejects the millennial kingdom. Amillennialists do not believe in a literal millennial earthly reign of peace of Christ after his return. They see the number 1000 symbolically and believe that the kingdom of God is present in the world today, as the
How do
victorious Christ
so
rules his church
many
through word and spirit.
people
Almost all Christians today,
see
especially in
the
conspiracy
same
culture, hold
things
believe
and
that the
then
book of
just
Revelation is
go
about
the
a future,
wrong
that the
way?
apocalypse and the second coming of Christ are imminent, and that the millennium kingdom with Jesus Christ will then begin. There's only discussion about a pre- or post-tribulation rapture. The view of a future millennium is actually relatively new and only existed in Christian sects until the so-called Jesus movement in the 1970s. This evangelistic movement of hippies from the west of the USA quickly spread around the world and, after dying down in the 1980s, left a legacy in Christian culture that continues to have an impact today. One of these is millennialism. Before 1970, committed Christians saw the Bible as a purely historical book about past events. This is
Huh. So before 1970, they're saying that people saw the Bible as something about past events. I remember the 1970 and the Good News Bible was coming out, and my cousin said, "Look, it said here that Adam and Eve had intercourse, and that's new." What do you got, RJ? Anything? It's just
Well, I'm looking at this artwork. I don't know who got credit for
it's all the
the
Rosicrucian
image.
stuff. You know, that's how they
Yeah.
drew back in the Rosicrucian day. You know, they think they've got everything figured out. He's taken it to their, you know, Kelly understanding conspiracy. Super people lived for 1,000 years at the North Pole. Maybe waiting for us to discover the truth. Let's just hear something.
universal love would proceed from the gospel of Christ, but transcend the letter of it. In this new age, the ecclesiastical organization would be replaced and the order of the just would rule the church. This order of the just was later identified with the Franciscan order by his follower Gerardo of Burgos and Don Nino. Sects founded in the mid-19th century, such as the deliberately pushy Jehovah's Witnesses and the Seventh-day Adventists, also propagated the view that the Second Coming and the 1,000-year kingdom are in the future. And as I may come back to in the future, many of these Christian sects have a possible origin in Freemasonry.
So these are things we've laid out for years, you know, and everybody's talking about it now. RJ, how does it feel to you? I mean, it's not exaggeration to say the Lord used the ministry that we hang out with to do this, and now everybody in the world knows about it. RJ, that cannot be denied. That's what bothers people, is that nobody else can say we did this. Nobody else can say we asked these questions first. We came out definitively. I came out saying the Lord has shown this and that. You've been right there the whole time. And I don't feel like I'm going to change my tune. And what bothers people, what bothers Shelley, what bothers Paul, what bothers the other people is that nobody else can say, the Lord used my ministry to bring this to the world. And now the world is questioning our history. And we're basically saying, not hard enough. They're not looking at it hard enough, man. They don't realize how narrow road it is. They don't realize what a purifying fire they're walking into. We're trying to warn them that the knock, knock, knock then was real. And people could still be going through that today thinking like, I heard it, Jesus. I know this and that. I could name it, claim it. There's a lot of stuff. Guess there's power, wonder working power in the name of Jesus. Does he know you? Are you sure?
As far as, I can only answer for myself, and what compels individuals to do what they do. Sometimes individuals, may be read like a book, so to speak. I don't know, but when I stumbled onto your channel, I was compelled to, first get a hold of you or attempt to get, and that wasn't, he didn't make it easy either. And then I
Yeah, I
did
can
what I
be
felt like I was compelled to do what
right.
I did.
And now we're super good friends. I mean, you don't like it, like when I was living in Wisconsin, I sometimes would call you up a couple times. I was just crying and I was lost. And my car wasn't working and I could only go 10 miles an hour. That's not fun for you, I know. But that's the way it is, man. Let's keep going. So these knuckleheads, what are they? Oh no. Yeah, he's a knucklehead.
More about the chronology of the final season and our place in time before the day of Armageddon. What speaks for this? If you take a closer look at Jesus' words to his disciples in Matthew.
So it's the same thing. We get it, some of you people here, it's the same thing we teach. It just goes off
As a
little bit.
physical and spiritual restoration or divine recreation of the city of Jerusalem. It is also interpreted by many Christian groups as referring to the church to be the dwelling place of the saints. The New Jerusalem is described with matching details. It is made of shining gold, has 12 gates, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and is
It's just
described by Eric Baird in 2011. It is created by recursively drilling Greek cross-shaped holes into a cube. The construction is similar to the Menger sponge, but with two different size cubes.
Huh?
The name comes from the face of the cube resembling a Jerusalem cross pattern. Here, they met giants 12 feet tall who spoke a language.
So they just, he's just, welcome to my channel. Jerusalem's in the middle.
The Walsperger map is interesting. It was once owned by the infamous Fugger family, and shows cannibalistic giants on the edge of the world. It's so strange how often this connection comes up. It says in German, "The whole world in a cloverleaf." The 4 island sections of the North Pole resemble a 4-leaf clover and are therefore used as a symbol of good luck and fortune. Same with the horseshoe, resembling the 2 magnetic mountains of the North Pole. The colors and general layout of the map are very reminiscent.
And everybody's living at the North Pole. Very dramatic.
So that we can continue, I must first go into my unique model of our
Is
cosmology.
it unique? Or is this something that we also did? I showed it because the Lord showed me, and it's a part of the heart, the vortex. And if he's just going to go through all of the things about it's flat, and just use the arguments the Lord showed Flat Earth Nation to take it to the North frickin' Pole in a hollow earth.
The Earth is built in the same way. There used to be a highly visible electromagnetic toroidal field in bright colors that surrounded the circular Earth like a protective dome shield. Some ancient cultures called it the rainbow serpent.
Oh, did they? He doesn't know that. The Bible doesn't say that. But he gets into, the how the world was hit with the glittering sword. Take it somewhere
Bible
else.
calls it fire from heaven, and that created our deserts and canyons. Or why the creators of The Matrix and similar movies used this green tint. This realm has a special connection to the green light of the heart chakra energy. In Latin and German. It can be found in the fascinating work, Amphitheatrum Sapientiae Eterni, by the German alchemist Heinrich Kuneth.
The Vulcan, throwing the hand signs, it's the Rosicrucians, it's the Freemasons.
Lapidem. So, visit the interior of the earth. By rectification thou shalt find the hidden stone. And that saying is, as mentioned before, connected to emerald.
And how did he get there? Well, it's where Paul and Shelley and everybody else, Theron, and oh my goodness, we gotta get to the munchkins in the...
This out. This is a map of Oz. It is in the design of Mercator's North Pole with the 4 colored island sections, and instead of the rupees Niagara there is the mountain-shaped Emerald City in the center. On other maps you can see how the inner area is surrounded by a white area, the so-called impenetrable.
Oh yeah, and they love Jules Verne, so they don't really love these games, and this is where they're getting it. You know, they don't want to listen to me and want to go. They're getting it from, you know, they got it all figured out.
Ages, and in Christian iconography it is often Jesus himself shown with it. For me this is a clear symbol for the floating Jerusalem above the Rupees Niagara mountain in which Jesus reigns.
The truth unveiled, taking it towards Roman. Go ahead, RJ.
Well, like he, for him, that's all he needed. Yeah, that's what it represents. And
they won't get off it. You know, they love AI. They just love the fact that Jesus might be waiting on a rowboat on a hollow earth. And, you know, it was only last year at this time when that nonsense took off, when all of a sudden Theron was like, I'm going to the North Pole. Who's in? I don't give one shit. My wife and kids are going with me and they're all on board. And, ooh, who's going to take care of the goats? Was it a UFO phenomenon? Was it a UFO phenomenon, people? It was not. Not sure if RJ had to take a step out or no. Yeah. A little bit more of this.
With mystical inhabitants. Among them is the flying city of Laputa. Try to reach the island through the girl and seize the stone. These things are symbolic representations of the spiritual quest to Zion.
Right. And these people all want you to believe in Jules Verne, believe in Hollow Earth, believe in the Mercator map. And I just think it's a trap. I have Deuteronomy 23 pulled up. I'm not sure, but I do want to. I don't think we need to wait for RJ. He can catch back up when we get in this. But many people talk about what it is like, you know, in war. The men of the Bible and the Philistines and everybody else would storm in and capture somebody. No, is it? Let's see. Here's the verse I wanted to focus on. This sounds like almost something from before the Civil War. And it's not really something that jumps out at you as like, oh, the God of the Old Testament just loves slavery. Deuteronomy 23, verse 15. You shall not give up to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. He shall dwell with you in your midst, in the place that he shall choose within one of your towns, wherever it suits him. You shall not wrong him. So that's the way the Bible speaks about slavery and how things are going. Now, RJ might have popped back in, or there he is. Now, RJ, this is the one people talk about, storming the camp and ravishing the women. Well, here's how God prescribes if you're going to take a wife from a tribe you conquered. When you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord your God gives them into your hand, excuse me, and you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire to take her to be your wife. You don't just throw her down and rape her. Verse 12, and you bring her home to your house. He shall shave her head, pare her nails, and she shall take off the clothes in which she was captured, and shall remain in your house and lament her father and her mother a full month. After that you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. But if you no longer delight in her, you shall let her go wherever she wants, but you shall not sell her for money, nor shall you treat her as a slave, since you humiliated her. You thought you were going to love her, but you didn't. But that's not the way we normally are taught. You know, oh, they went in and they just killed everybody, raped everybody, right? You know, like right in front of other people. Really? That's what do we got? What's the takeaway? Anything?
Oh yeah, you know, as far as being barbaric, that those are, or you hear the stories of them that are barbaric, and then you have this alternative way of if you're going to like well, it's self-explanatory. If you have that in mind, this is the preferred method.
Right. Because he's the God of love. And I don't want to pick on you because I don't like it when people always want to focus on, we want to hear how sinful RJ was. No, you don't. But you're forgiven and you know that. We've known that for a long time. And I have some horrendous sins in my past. We all do. But most people don't think you can be forgiven.
Well, yeah, as far as the folly of your youth, and then, you know, eventually, just as it implies your youth, you ought to grow out of it,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
different reasons, certainly, but one may be of a spiritual choice that you cut yourself from that type of activity mindset. But then there's other ways that you can go through the same similar changes, whatever that influence may be. But I'd like to think it's more of a, godly will decision.
God puts a intention in our heart. We're saved. We know we're forgiven. And we can tell some people and they get it. But most people just go like, okay, somebody died for your sins. And now we learn that they'll never get it because their eyes aren't open. We're going to move it. So we got here. If she shall, all right. So we got that. Antonio Bozio wrote a book, Born in Malta. I'm sharing this. Was a representative of the Holy Seas, the Knights of Malta. He wrote a book that this one here, Underground Rome. And, he's they found it. They stumbled upon it. And it was the time of the Golden Bra. This was reminded, I got reminded of this because of the movie Apocalypse Now. I saw a video where one of the books on the table of Colonel Kurtz, the guy who got killed and it was the maniac, was reading it. And it is a study in comparative religions that changed the world. Like Thomas Bullfinch. He is the person, well, he's the guy, I'm going to open that in another one, that basically lays out Roman mythology. Yeah, Bullfinch's mythology. It's the famous book that we learn about, well, the Greeks call him this and the Romans call him that. And then the other people, he's the one that basically laid out the age of fable that this book, it took over. And the Nazis, everybody that was into social Darwinism. You know, the British just went crazy for it, and it just was a way of looking at the Bible as allegory and myth, and that white people ruled. It was basically, well, the Doors sang about it. Everybody talks about this book, and it's just something that their people are going to need to understand. We got to move on. We got a lot of stuff here. Here it is, Daniel 12. I heard, but I did not understand. Oh, my Lord, what shall be the outcome of these things? How long shall it be till the end of these wonders? And those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky above, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book until the time of the end. Are we living in this era? I kind of hinted I was going to ask you this, RJ, that many, are we living in the area that many are now running to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased? Because this, it seems like we're in an important time in history.
Another important time in history. Even Jesus said, those that hear, and then reference them at, to Daniel and what it meant, to ponder, however it's translated, consider. So, yeah, it seems as though, from where, as far as, I don't know, common, but, the mindset, say, a decade ago. And
before Mudflood was Armageddon.
Yeah. Yeah, Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age past. This isn't anything that I heard, people, speaking about or anything until, like I say, when I stumbled on your channel back then and caught
Right.
my interest, because it at that time, what you were presenting
Right. And
seemed
we
new
can
to me.
date it. We know. Give me 1 second here because I have to give you a pointed question. It can all be dated because you called up out of nowhere when I had been like a rich young ruler and burnt through with thousands, oh man, a lot of money proving what I believed. And then I was out of money, but it was like I had to go like 8 more months until my retirement, and I didn't have any money. And then all of a sudden, I get a letter from RJ going like, "Here's a check for $1,000." I made a video, ripped it up, and I go like, "You think I'm stupid?" You know. Duh. So anyway, you come out and give me $2,000. The ministry continues, and now the world knows that it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. The stones are crying out. It's not only theology that we've changed the world. We got left behind, but it hasn't bothered us. We still put out videos almost every day. And that's the knowledge. That's the knowledge. It's that we didn't read the Bible right. They were lying to us. It's not our fault. RJ, you weren't born with dyslexia. I wasn't born with dyslexia. They gave it to us.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, they gave it to us. So here's I forgot the pointed question I was going to ask you, but
I don't regret, any of it. It's just, it's a work in progress. It's more of a way of, not just a way of life, but it's a different way of thinking, perceiving what, it changes who you are.
I think that that Theron will step it back. I hope that Paul will step it back. I think Jason Jack is starting to step it back and take a fresh look. There is signs of hope for some. There are diminishing hope for others. I'm going to close that one. So many will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase. It's going to be what's going to be the difference. The words were going to be shut up until the last 32 years, and now it's down to the last 22 years. None of the wicked are going to ever understand, but only those who are wise, and they've been made wise. So we understand it. We have a time, we have a date, we know what we're waiting for. And the world just wants to mince words about, oh, maybe you're wrong, because you're stupid. Paco's dumb. Composition of the human body includes gold and silver. So I thought it was time to remind that. How much metal is in a human? Well, 2.5% of you. And just take away a lot of that water, and you dried out bag. 2.5% is a lot when you're talking about 10,000 people on a boat that you can drop off in a iron factory and melt them down, skim it off, and take what you want. I do believe that the world became that evil. So even the fact that you have gold in you that is, they want to say it's that much. Well, that's pretty confusing. And these numbers, weird. Silver's in there. It's 10 by 10 by -9. What are all of these -9s? -9. It's 6 times 10 to the -9. Okay, that's just confusing. What's toxic about what's in our body? Well, poo is toxic, Nickel, I got into that. And all of this, hyperthyroidism, iodine, add it to the salt. You need it or you're going to get nuked. Something with the hyperthyroid, I can't get away from it. Remember, we just did a show yesterday. This is what's new for today, people. It's hyperthyroidism. They're doing that to the women today and the youth like they gave us dyslexia. If we didn't realize, hey, wait a minute, the books aren't written in, phonics, I should do that. The only real difference, between someone like obviously, because some of the conversations that we've had, you are not the dyslexic troubled child that they told you were in the youth, or I was. It's just that somewhere along the line, something happened in my life where they had to go, ugh, we need you in the Army as a surveyor. And I'm like, I barely passed algebra and I hadn't taken any more math. And they go like, you're a surveyor. Go do it. We're going to send you to trigonometry school and everything will be okay. That never happened in your life, but I know that you could have done that because it's not that hard once you cut through their bullshit, and realize just do the steps and the math will work. I wouldn't have never known. I was raised to be a jock. I didn't know, I thought everything was all about, yeah, boom, boom, ding, blast, Dick and Boy Hughes. That was me, But then they were like, hey, you're smart. And I'm like, really?
Opportunities,
Whoa.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all opportunities.
And we lived through for different things then. But women, it's your hyperthyroid. Do you care? Do you want to be bloated and constipated all the time? Then come on. Sweat, stretch, and eat organic and get off that crap. It's that freaking easier. You're going to end up with Graves' disease like George Bush's mommy. Or Aleister Crowley's daughter, some conspiracy people think. Some metals are toxic. We want to build up gold, silver, And precious metals. This is one of those ones they say they do the chemtrails with. Lithium, a metal that could make you crazy or stop you from being crazy.
Yeah, that's just, like anything can be toxic, if the dosage is at that adequate level to be toxic. But yeah, otherwise, the body not only process, but maybe even utilize it, if it's.
Yeah, I know that
in the
Wonder
proper
Bread. That Wonder
also
Bread had
doesn't.
built up your body in a lot of different ways. These are, you know how things go, and I just keep looking things up, and I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out. So we got here. This is your next thing here, RJ. International Seabed Authority. We live under the International Seabed Authority now. It is a Jamaica-based intergovernmental body of 167 member states that won't allow you to go to Antarctica. It was established in 1982 in the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. Common heritage of all mankind. Nobody's going to argue with that, right? Or if we wanted to, where would we go?
Common law? Or
Hey, I want to argue this. Who do I talk to? New York? No, Jamaica. UN Convention of the Sea. This is nothing. This is just more smoke and mirrors. Pretty sure. Right? What are they even doing? But anyway, so we got some new laws that we're under. I don't know. They might have an agenda, some people say. But other people
you
say,
need
like,
to embrace, I'm sure.
I want to cuddle with it. I've heard that if you cuddle, it gives you oxycontin. Wait, this is not the thing I wanted to see.
System. In fact, Phoenix would not, and I often get asked, how many HOCOM lived in the Phoenix area during this canal system? And I can tell you the two main figures that have been quoted are 24,000 to 50,000 people because of this canal system. And it never would have happened without the canal system. In fact, Phoenix would not exist today as it does if not for this canal system, because the development of the city of Phoenix in
I want people to study this, RJ. I used to live right there, man, in a town called Kearney.
for Gila River Indian community. And Terry Leonard used to be their cultural officer out there, and he and I went out there a long time ago. It's Red Mountain there, and you can see where there's no development. This is what the canals looked like when the first settlers came. You could see them on the surface, and you knew something was unusual in that you have canals in the middle of the desert, and they
leveled the whole desert.
And in here you actually have a canal that has an outlet and your watering fields, and it's not going down to the lower tier of your system. But there's something important to show you here. When you're taking water out, you have to slow it down, remember? And so how do you do that? Well, you can do it with what we call riprap. Some of you know what riprap is. It's basically a bunch of stones, and often broken ground stone. And they do a paving, and in fact, a lot of times it's also broken vessels. Combination of cobbles, broken ground stone, and broken vessels to create a paving. This slows the water down, and then you have gates here to control how much water and when the water is going into the second tier system. Because it might be that it's low flow in the river, and you don't want to have what is coming in here to go down here because you got to maintain these.
So I always talk about, what a crazy life I had, So this is how they dug the canals, with these digging sticks. You kidding me?
Yeah, I suppose what he's touching on, Victor Schauberger may agree with this individual's
It's something about
assessment.
the whirlpool. So, like I said, I lived here, in Kearney, Pinal County, Arizona. And I was just a little boy that had free run of everything. I could go anywhere I wanted on my little bicycle. Let's take a look at it from above. This is a good map. Right? Where's that one that has I don't like the one. I like this one. So this is where I learned how to swim, and this is where I learned how my dad was teaching me. I was turned 8 years old, my golden birthday, I got a 22 rifle. And I kept it for the longest time. I don't know where the little pool is that we used to go swimming in, but we lived in a trailer park that was over here. And this is the Gila River. And I actually saw a Gila monster. There were horned toads, horned lizards everywhere. And I went to the Navajo school, with we were the few white people there. And then when my dad wanted me to be in the sports, they would drive me into town. It was just a few miles. Crazy, right?
So where was your father employed?
There was a big they were building something a big copper mine. Big copper mine. Maybe this is like the remnants of it. But he was a union guy, so they would go wherever the big union overtime jobs were, The Superstition Mountains are on the way to Phoenix this way. Gilbert, Phoenix, Chandler, Mesa. So, and on the way are the Superstition Mountains where the Lost Dutchman's mine is. I don't want to go into too much. It's just that that's weird of what was going on.
The humans are going to do the least amount of digging they can get away with. But what they found was the problem with canal systems along the river. Can you imagine what that is? That's where your houses are too. What's happening to your houses? They're getting flooded. Where the spread, interestingly enough, about every 3 miles along the canal system. And so there was, obviously there was some kind of zoning that went on as to where you could build.
Yeah, you're being zoned. Remember, a long time ago, I showed a picture of a heart. And I said, remember that one little mark on the swastika? There it is, right there.
So yeah, this represents the body cavity, the ribs.
Yeah, I said I was going to look up that left atrium, and I did. Because, it is a chamber. And you remember, RJ, that 3 of them had the circles and 1 didn't. So this is it. It doesn't seem like a chamber, yet they knew it was. I have found these. I've shown these. I'm going to do it again. The fibrous, the rope, the another thing. I'll bet a lot of ministries wish they could be the one that said, yeah, I knew about the helical heart, and people like Stellium 7 called me and asked questions and stuff, and
Yeah,
but
the Gordian knot.
They can't say that. They can't say that. But I can. And I will. Because the Lord is going to have people understand that this is a Christian ministry. This started as a Christian ministry. And when I didn't have to wonder if you were going to notice, hey, there's no circle in this quadrant. I didn't have to guess. This is not a surprise, people. This is wow. So there is like this is the left ventricle, But there is that little split off valve up there. It really is something that they can't explain. But they knew about it back in the day.
So is that a port that the body used for what, injecting like adrenaline or whatever required? Or what are you saying? What's the purpose of how
They don't even really know. But
you know,
this is a good way of explaining
yeah,
it because they still think it's a pump. The left atrium is that bottom
Yeah.
mystery part, receives the oxygenated blood from the left and right pulmonary vein, which it pumps to the left ventricle, the one without the circle, through the mitral valve for pumping out through the aorta or the systemic circulation. High in the upper part, that's that little bulb of the left atrium, is a muscular ear-shaped pouch. I'm so glad that you asked about this. The left atrial appendage, that's what they call it, which has a tubular trabecular structure. The left atrial appendage, LLA anatomy, has, as seen in a CT scan, is characterized as being in one of four groups: chicken wing, cactus, windstock, and cauliflower. The cauliflower, 3%, is the morphology most often associated with an embolism. The left arterial appendage, the one without the circle, appears to function as a decompression chamber for the left ventricular systole, and during the periods when the left arterial pressure is high. How's your left arterial pressure doing now, RJ?
Well, if I have an issue with it, I'm unaware. I don't know.
Yeah, you haven't had a heart attack in decades. I can't
Pretty
keep
cool.
away from the hard stuff, RJ. Mr. Harvard boy wants you to interpret this for him.
Exodus 19 and 20, when they receive the 10 commandments and so on, is just so beautiful, so special, that they become like gods. However, they sin, the golden calf. And when they sin, that little honeymoon period that they had there for just a few moments is over. Thus, they will die. The smoking gun then in John 10 is that phrase, those to whom the word of God came. In other words, what's the word of God? The word of God is Torah. And who are those to whom it came? Namely, the Sinai audience. So I think that's the reference. That's enough of the reference there to show that Jesus is referring to this early Jewish interpretive tradition. And it might be, as Neri says in the article that I linked below, it may be that the Gospel of John actually contains the earliest reference, presumably from...
You ever notice how many people, like, I guess I would be more, I don't have any guitars, and so many people that are content creators, they just got walls full of guitars, man. Anyway, here's his thesis.
Then how can you say that the one whom the Father has sanctified and sent into the world is blaspheme because I said, I am God's son? So what is he talking about when he refers to your law? Well, first of all, we have to recognize where this quote is coming from. And sometimes New Testament authors or Jesus or gospel authors will use the word law to refer to things that we don't think of as being in the law technically, as in the Torah, as in the Pentateuch, as in the first 5 books of the Bible, as in things that are explicitly stated as laws. Okay, so we have to think a little bit more expansively. And we have to go back, in fact, not to the technical law, but to the Psalms in order to find this quote. It is it not written, I said, you are gods? Where is that from exactly? It is from perhaps an unlikely source, one of the most mysterious Psalms in the collection of Psalms, Psalm 82. Let's go to Psalm 82 then and see if we can get any traction on why this quote would seem to be an appropriate one to get Jesus out of this situation that he's in. Psalm 82. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. I'm reading from the NRSV here. We'll notice that, in fact, there could be a different video on Psalm 82 in which we can compare translations, because depending on the translation you read for Psalm 82, you're going to get very different words here. The NIV, for example, has very different words. I'm just going to go with the NRSV for this one, okay? And this is my promise that we'll do a good analysis of Psalm 82 and its language. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice.
All right. Well, RJ, I don't want to, go over the whole Psalm 82, but that's another one where we talk about it, and we don't need Dr. Heiser. We don't need this or that. We need people to say they need to listen to us. It's the Titans. It's the dividing of the nation. So he's trying to say the word that was delivered to certain people, that was the law that they had to listen to for Jesus. And he fulfilled it. It also talks about a time when the nations were divided, and when that law was given to, well, it was divided among them because there was dissension in heaven about what law, who could do the best at raising thing. And each nation and Jehovah, Yahweh, took the last pick, the tribe, and made them Hebrews. But there were gods of other nations, and they went bad. God didn't. They started showing favoritism. They proved they were not completely, there was only one good law, and only Jesus could fulfill it. That's my story. Go ahead, RJ.
Well, when you're, that all I can think of, as a single word would be integrity. And as far as, why and how that went sour amongst, the other nations and their gods. And was it, I suppose it's a certain level of cheating, I guess, in a way that, they weren't being true to that standard. How long are you going to be unjust? And, either you're flatly ignoring what's blatantly obvious, or fast asleep at the wheel.
I think that the cheating aspect, maybe you could flesh that out, because I think God didn't tell the Hebrew people, don't do astrology because it's stupid. He said, don't do astrology because it's part of that other God's deal. And it's kind of like cheating to look into the future that you don't really only partially understand. They were all looking for a sacrifice, but they didn't know it would be God himself, right?
Like alchemistry or whatever. I mean, it's something that works, but it's, and if the Lord says, okay, I'll take, we're getting, as far as divvying up, whatever, okay, I'll scrape the bottom of the barrel here. Okay, and everything's emptied out. I've scraped the bottom of the barrel, and this is mine. And
yeah, and then when the bottom of the barrel wouldn't even show up, God said, "Go out to the highways and byways and just compel any loser," and that's us Gentiles. Yay!
But that's that's the Lord being fair with
merciful
His creation. It isn't like you haven't been warned. It isn't like
right. If He didn't change our heart, none of us would even try to be good. Something like that.
Would be the point. Yeah, if you believe what you're taught, right. But until you stumble onto some truth and veil gets tugged up where you can get focused in on some real visionary substance. Yeah, but it isn't like it's not challenging.
We can't keep going on all day. Hey, but my new electric bike came in. I guess I don't recommend electric bikes, but I have a couple. So John Levy, he's back in the news as usual.
Why I wanted
Once a
to
week.
focus on it. I thought it would be fun to see what they say. Maybe it's very reasonable, and this just becomes a tomb.
It's going to be
I
the
haven't
same
done
thing.
tomb videos in a while. One of my favorites. The tomb, like a giant building, beautiful tomb. There's so many slaves. For the slave system to successfully play out, you must feed and house the people, except for this modern system that we find ourselves in.
Right. In modern systems, slaves can go feed themselves. So RJ, there it is. We're not going to be able to get to everything all the time, but we've been going an hour and 15 minutes. It's a Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. There is division so that people can rightly divide the truth, and we're going to get to that truth. Any what's on your heart before we?
Well, a lot of it, like you just kind of laid out, logistics. Much of humanity is, sharing what be the distribution of the logistics, and it doesn't just happen. I mean, the Lord will provide, but to
Joy,
break it
hope,
down,
and love. Joy, hope,
it's
and
probably
love.
more complicated, than what than what you realize.
Part of the sanctification that we are supposed to experience as we grow closer and closer to Christ because of our addiction to studying the Word. How does that look practically?
It's like, well, you vote with your money. Is that what they say? But as far as, and then everybody has different needs, different times. Age and responsibilities and raising family. I mean, it's just. I mean, it is more. It's not simple. Any of it isn't simple, but there is some sort of method to the madness. As far as outsiders looking in, do they see much that's uniquely different than the rest of society, or the citizenry around? It's a blend.
And
And that blend is,
everybody that watches the video now or later, and I want to thank the people that have stuck around, but people will see this and they'll know that we want you to believe the Bible. We want you to believe that it's true. You've been lied to. Everything we're pointing you to is because it's possible you're one of those one called, two chosen, and three you want to be faithful. I know that every single one of you now, then, and the people that will watch later have people in your life that you don't understand anymore. And they don't understand you anymore. And maybe you're in Appalachia, maybe you're in Ukraine, maybe you're in Siberia or Tasmania. But it's personal to you for a reason. We're all being either hearing his voice and being drawn to him or not, RJ. And
and you truly only have one life to live, and how you utilize the opportunity to live that life could be revealing.
And when we think about our Father in heaven, specifically, our Father identifies as a man, a father. And when it says, holy be your name, hallowed be your name, set apart be your name, it's talking about his reputation as the one who took this tribe and brought them out of Egypt and out of slavery and bondage, yet they wanted to go back. His name is to be, his reputation is not to be, oh, he said he was coming back in that generation, but it needed a plan B because the Jews weren't on board.
Well, that's where reliability.
How is that hallowed be your reputation? That's a good thing to be remembered for. The Jews that didn't like you, so they chose Barabbas.
Yeah, because when it comes to reliability, yeah, that's something that that it requires integrity to be reliable, and it's an anchor you should hold fast to.
And we should,
Just-
because people
even
like
though
Nathan,
as humans, we're unable to maintain such a reputation, but the Lord does. He is.
how many people could the Lord say, here's a man in Israel with, no guile. Oh, how do you know me? And then they said, this is amazing. And that group of people who love, striving said, teach us to pray. And he said, okay, to them, pray it this way. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Go ahead.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, and then when it's said about the praying, as far as the dude on the corner that's going through what he felt was a prayer, and then the other one beating his chest, looking down, forgive me, I'm a miserable sinner type thing, and then also just go home. If you lock yourself in the closet or close yourself, where you don't really have any witnesses other than the Lord you are praying to is your witness, but and do it in a sincere, private way. But then you do have, public prayer, and that was what they were. So yeah, there's.
and he's, how should we pray? You should pray, oh, let your kingdom come. The
Yeah.
Messiah's kingdom come, because they were in a kingdom that was not satisfactory.
Well, yeah, as far as looking around, observing, and where is the Lord's will being done? Is it being done? And it's not in the act of the devastation of whatever catastrophic thing that's happening. It would be in the aftermath, the humanity with those in need, first and foremost, the banding of the bandaging of the wounds and whatever, and just that type of dailiness in a safe setting. But where the Lord's will is being done requires it from the individual's heart, I believe. It's a work in progress.
Right. And when we tell people this is a time to make a decision, it's time to get on your knees, it's time to accept the fact you can be forgiven. There's a lot of people out there carrying a lot of baggage, some worse than you, that just they can't believe they can be forgiven, RJ.
Well, yeah, it seems as though that's what you're describing is affects yeah a number of individuals, and then you can have the corporate forgiveness, but it's on an individual basis. It's like a nation. It's the citizens. It's not you know
How do we throw
governments.
up our hands and say, well, just leave it at that? God said Jesus came to bring division. Well, he certainly did, and he certainly has achieved it. And now we're on a narrow road, and we don't want anybody on it to get off of it because the end is near. And the next step of this seems to be the imminence of, we all feel something's going on. That, okay, we got the Trump. Is he all it's cracked up to be? Is it not? We know something's going to happen, and it's thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now we know there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth. What it's really coming down to is, did Satan think God didn't know? Did Satan think he was going to get away with it? And Satan, being a type of Judas, stealing from the money bag, planning for another future. And Jesus reading people's minds, walking on the water. Judas is right there. Did Judas really think God didn't know that there would be no judgment? Do people out there right now listening to us maybe for the first time, they somehow think there's no judgment coming? That there's not going to be held accountable, but they can be forgiven.
Well, as far as the different translations of the Lord's Prayer has evolved over time, and the Creator of everything, if to think that he wasn't aware of where we are, in it's a closed stationary system with what he describes, and what's being described in Genesis, in the firmament, for the purpose of recording time, days,
The Lord's
nights,
Prayer does
seasons,
all that.
moons, phases for years. That's why when I it's in heaven, and it's also here in earth, and this is a spiritual war. It's what it is.
So the knowledge can be increasing, real time for us, like the dispensationalists are teaching, like it's the end times and knowledge is increasing. Well, the knowledge is increasing that we should look at the Bible as the book that was written to those people it names came true. And now really it's like the last 3 chapters of the Bible are what's left. And, we got it. Me, you, Doug, and Don. And now the rest of the world is figuring it out.
Well, to be more specific, it's an age of information and sharing whatever the information is that you want to share. As far as knowledge, that's a generic, but to me, knowing something, to parrot something that you've been taught when it has nothing to do with truth, to me isn't yeah, not real useful knowledge. Yeah, I mean, unless you need to pass a test to be as an exercise. What do you know about whatever you've been taught, even though it has nothing to do with reality or anything significant? But it's information. This is an information age.
And we're an
Cer-
information channel. So with the last 30 seconds, why don't you tie in the James of how you have not because you asked not, when we could be. I'm just kidding. I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
The 30.
And how sincere are you
Yeah.
with the
How
characters
double-minded
that
is
you're
the, what's the
portraying?
limit?
Yeah,
Yeah. The
right.
double-minded limit. Is it? But no, we got to go. It's, it's an hour and 30. We're always here. We're going to
Yeah.
be here. But the version of the Lord's Prayer that you use was what, 1966. So it's relatively new.
Well, even in some of the what would be the organized Christian denominations have been tinkering, their version of what with the public prayer. And a lot of times even the public prayer is either, done simultaneously as a whole congregation, or it's just recited, by the one conducting the service. There's different ways that they do that, or how it is done. Not they, but how it is done. Right, and it's yeah. Then to be some level of
Comfort.
being comfortable doing it. Yeah, also, yeah, I believe is a part of the whole process and or
Well,
what's to be
before
expected.
our day closes with the Lord's Prayer from the American translation, uh,
Well, yeah,
let's
you won't
see.
really find what I recite. It it's a blend because from what I have studied and uh, it ends up being something where it's spoken in kind of a common language occurrence. It's not what would you say 2024 local English, whatever that means, because some of the words are not daily used, but other than in the prayer form, primarily.
And here we are, 1 month left of 2024. The 2025 is here. While we listen to this recitation of the Lord's Prayer closing this church service, we're going to, I'm going to ask you to put yourself in the place of those people who first heard it. They're getting a firsthand account from the apostles. And it was the way God shared it. Those people, the Gentiles, those few Hebrews, turned the world upside down. The gospel was preached to every creature. We see the remnant of it. We know where we're at in history, RJ. Why don't we go ahead and
Yeah,
get on?
as far it's breaking it, petitions, the petitions in the Lord's Prayer and chronologically, that's the way it was presented to them. So I suppose if you get all the petitions in there, it's the Lord's Prayer, but it's as far as how he presented it, that was how it was presented. So yeah, that's generally how it's recited. Yeah,
Okay, well, why don't you generally recite it the way it's recited?
sure. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who trespass against us. and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
To him who wants to remind you and is able to keep you from stumbling, would have you lock in on the fact that it is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. That's what me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else, but because we are one called, two chosen, three faithful. Amen. Aloha. Amen. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao.
It'd
Sayonara.
be a long month, but holidays are in there.
Oh my goodness. Don't get laid off, people. Auf Wiedersehen. Good